Two National Guard soldiers were critically injured in a shooting near the White House. The suspect, identified as an Afghan national, has been taken into custody. President Trump condemned the attack as an act of terror, calling the perpetrator an animal. And he announced plans to re-examine Afghan nationals who entered the U.S. under the Biden administration. The incident took place at a busy lunch spot for office workers just blocks from the White House. The eyewitness video captured the dramatic aftermath of the shooting. Officials have called the incident a targeted attack, prompting an immediate lockdown of the White House. At the time of the attack, President Trump was at his Palm Beach resort in Florida ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday, while the vice president was in Kentucky. Investigators have identified the suspect as a 29-year-old Afghan national. The official added that the attack is being investigated as an act of terrorism.
The Department of Homeland Security is confident that the suspect in custody is a foreigner who entered our country from Afghanistan, a hellhole on earth. He was flown in by the Biden administration in September 2021. We must now re-examine every single alien who has entered our country from Afghanistan under Biden. This heinous assault was an act of evil, an act of hatred, and an act of terror. It was a crime against our entire nation. It was a crime against humanity.
Pete Hegseth announced that President Trump has directed the deployment of 500 additional National Guard troops to Washington, D.C.
In fact, this happened just steps away from the White House. It will not stand. And that's why President Trump has asked me, and I will ask the Secretary of the Army, to the National Guard, to add 500 additional troops, National Guardsmen, to Washington, D.C. This will only stiffen our resolve to ensure that we make Washington, D.C. safe and beautiful.
And briefing the media, the Metropolitan Police Department said that the National Guards who were critically injured were taken to the hospital for treatment. The Afghan suspect who was injured during confrontation was also taken for treatment.
At approximately 2:15 this afternoon, members of the D.C. National Guard were on high visibility patrols in the area of 17th and I Street Northwest when a suspect came around the corner, raised his arm with a firearm, and discharged it at the National Guard members. Within moments, members of law enforcement in the area were also able to assist and bring that individual into custody. The National Guard members are being treated at a local hospital. D.C. Fire and EMS responded to the scene to provide first aid for those individuals and transport them to a local hospital. The suspect in this case was also transported for treatment at a local hospital.
Another video showed a helicopter, police, emergency vehicles converging on the scene following the shooting incident. An eyewitness said that the atmosphere immediately after the shooting was tense and unsettling. He noted that the incident could lead to a stronger military and police presence across the city.
Not really, didn't see blood. I think it was a little bit too far for that being across the street. However, we did hear them working on somebody, and they were doing chest compressions on one of the National Guard men, and then there was another one that was on the ground that looked like he was a little bit closer to the suspect.
To stay up to speed with the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.